Hi, it's Conor Svensson here, founder and CEO of Web3 Labs. This is a conversation I had with Doug Petkanics, CEO and founder of Livepeer, a decentralized video streaming network. In our conversation, we discussed why Livepeer is such a critical piece of infrastructure, not just for the Web3, but also Web2 companies, especially those who aren't at the scale of Amazon or Google. We also talked about how Livepeer has managed to tap into an almost endless supply of GPUs to power this video network's transcoding, thanks to cryptocurrency miners, and how streaming video can work alongside NFTs for creators. Doug's been immersed in the blockchain ecosystem for the past 5 years, and it was great to hear his perspectives on where we're headed with Web3. So, Doug, it's awesome to have you here on the show today. Some of our viewers will be watching this episode on YouTube, and I'm sure like many of them aren't aware of the challenges with video transcoding that Livepeer solves. Why is it such an important problem, and how did you end up kind of focusing on it and founding Livepeer?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Connor. Excited to talk to you about Livepeer and Web3 in general today. So yeah, Livepeer tackles video transcoding, something that's not really a consumer-friendly term that people think about all the time, but basically that's the heavy processing that needs to occur on any video in order to make sure that it can be viewed on every different type of device at every different type of connection speed without buffering. So, all the big sites like YouTube and Twitch and Netflix, of course, do transcoding so they can deliver high quality video to everyone. But anyone who's building any type of video application, and in today's day and age, video is 80% of the traffic on the internet, and it's powering the way we communicate, interact, educate ourselves, learn, work. It's everywhere. All the different sites and products that use video need to actually do this type of processing on videos. It's very expensive. It's very hard to do, and the Livepeer network makes it affordable, infinitely scalable, and reliable. So that's one of the core things that we do. But even bigger picture, going back to the origins of Livepeer, our mission is to build the world's open video infrastructure. Transcoding is one piece of that, but there's many other important pieces of the way video works on the internet, and we have a lot of cool things in the works that help video developers deliver good video experiences as well.
So before we go into the actual Web3 angle, are there any kind of Web2 equivalents? Because most people, when they're serving up video, they tend to use one of the dominant content providers, be that sort of short clips on one of, say, TikTok, or within Twitter or whatever else, or LinkedIn, say, or then they're using YouTube, Vimeo, and so on. Are there kind of equivalents to what you're doing in that world, or are those the equivalents where it's kind of like these walled gardens that you need to work with?
Yeah, Livepeer is the infrastructure layer. We're developer-facing product to build video apps, as opposed to the experiences that you just talked about. YouTube, Twitch, etc., TikTok. Those are like consumer experiences. So they're using the types of apps that people would build on Livepeer. But there's lots of other kind of video infrastructure platforms out there in the Web2 world. Companies people may have heard of or may not have. Vimeo, Mux.com, Brightcove, Amazon Web Services, AWS has a suite of video tools, right? These are the things that people would consider and evaluate against using Livepeer. And when they build on those platforms, typically we see the costs are very high. For live streams, it can cost up to $3 an hour per stream just to do encoding. On Livepeer, you see the price is about 1/10 of that. And of course, there you're relying on a centralized company, centralized platform, single points of failure that process your payments, control your access, etc. Whereas Livepeer is decentralized, open source software. Anyone can build and scale video on Livepeer in kind of a permissionless way. So those are a couple different value propositions. Just to give you an example of the types of things that are built on Livepeer, we see little vertical specific versions of things that look like YouTube or Twitch. So you see DJ streaming sites that have tens or hundreds of DJs streaming their sets simultaneously, artist streaming sites where you have communities of artists, creating digital art and their fans are watching them and making requests. Sports streaming, so you'll see, high school and college football games, broadcast all around the country, and they need video infrastructure to power these applications. Gaming streaming, really cool Web3 native streaming apps that make use of things like NFTs and token gating and whatnot that are building on Livepeer. So yeah, you may think every consumer is using, just YouTube and TikTok, but if you actually look at the number of different video apps they touch throughout the day, whether it be Netflix or Google Hangouts or Zoom or any of the different OTT platforms on there, Apple TV or Fire Stick, or a platform like we're recording this on right now, it's all video.
Absolutely, it's so ubiquitous now, and I guess you created Livepeer out of really I guess a problem you experienced firsthand around these kind of walled gardens as well. With respect to your previous venture was called Wildcard, if I'm right there, and so was that was kind of the thing. Was that the kind of trigger that got you, looking at the Web3 space, or was it kind of that? Was it something else?
Yeah, it was really the convergence of these two worlds. One was, always having kind of an interest in Bitcoin, back from the early days as this open financial ecosystem, and that was cool and interesting, and followed along. Um, but it wasn't something you could really develop on. It wasn't like a developer platform, right? Um, Now, while all that was happening, my co-founder Eric and I, we've worked on two startups previously, both kind of in the fringe technology, data infrastructure space. The one called Wildcard you mentioned, we're building this mobile publishing platform as the whole internet was shifting from desktop to mobile, and we knew that on mobile, content would be consumed not in the web browser, but inside of applications like Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and uh, Google search results and whatnot. And uh, initially, as we were building this platform, we were able to make content and products and videos kind of fit and work with inside of those applications, because they claimed they were going to have open APIs and release these beta developer toolkits to start building. And then, over the months and early years of getting going on this, they all sort of stopped communicating updates to those platforms. They actually started closing off access to the APIs. They weren't giving you the customization. And then eventually they just cut this off and started going to our customers and building relationships with the publishers and e-commerce merchants directly. And everything we thought would happen in the world happened, but we didn't get to be a part of it because these big tech proprietary platforms, kind of changed their developer agreements and boxed us out and boxed everyone else out building in this space. And we were like, never again do we want to, put our destiny in the hands of these few big tech platforms. And then at the same time, there was this cool new open development platform emerging called Ethereum. And we said, whoa, like not only is this open platform, but this actually lets you put economic incentives into open source software to get people to run it, to contribute to it in a way that they can actually participate in the upside that gets created from the usage of those networks. And so, combine our interest and experience building in video for the previous company with this new platform that was emerging, that really didn't have a video layer to enable developers to build video applications using these cool primitives. We saw it as an opportunity that really aligned with something we were excited about and wanted to be a part of. So, going from point A to point B, there's a lot of learning, research, hacking on open source projects, meeting everyone in the space back in 2016, but eventually emerged out the other side and decided to build Livepeer.
And had the kind of the challenges of costs associated with hosting video actually hit you as well? Was that something you'd almost learned as a result of going through that, through Wildcard too?
Yeah, like as I mentioned, the economics of using one of these cloud services to power your live video streams is really prohibitive to a startup, right? $3 an hour per stream doesn't sound like a lot if you're just putting on an event, right? Like if you have one stream of video and you're selling tickets or you have sponsors or whatnot, fine, no problem. You can pay that $3 an hour. But if you want to build a platform for creators that let tens or hundreds or thousands of people go live and stream at once, you want to build something that has the potential to scale to the size of a TikTok, for example. Forget about $3 an hour. You can't have 100 people streaming at once and be paying $300 an hour as a startup, especially when you're trying to compete with YouTube that's letting the streamer stream for free. And by the way, the only infrastructures that you can pay in order to help pay the $3 an hour to in order to help power your application are Google Cloud and Amazon Web Services, the two companies that own YouTube and Twitch that you're trying to compete with, right? And so what we've seen is for ourselves and for other people building these creator apps, it's a complete non-starter. You can have a successful app, but it can bankrupt you before you put a business model on top of it. That's what we saw with one of our kind of most interesting users, PlayDJ.tv. They launched, they had 1,000 DJs sign up, and they had to shut it down after 2 weeks because running the infrastructure was too expensive. And so when they found Livepeer and were able to actually build on a much more affordable, sustainable infrastructure, it helped them find their model and begin to scale their business. And so it's kind of something we felt and we've continued to see over and over again with those who have built on Livepeer.
One of the fascinating things that you raised there as well is the fact that there's a clear, there's a compelling financial advantage for people to actually work with the Livepeer platform rather than some of the other options that are out there. Is that something that's become, changed much over the years? Because you've been going now for a few years, you're not sort of a project that's just spun up. You've got your very well-known quantity within the overall blockchain ecosystem space, you're well respected and so on. But given that there's actually a tangible business there, right, which is something that, of course, a lot of projects, they can be a bit too idealistic about it. Has kind of your view changed much, or has that kind of always been the case, and it's just more about building greater awareness about that your platform exists and that it's a really, really compelling option for people to actually build on top of?
Yeah, one of the things that's been surprising to me is that this price advantage does resonate a lot with people building new things, which is good. We want to enable that to exist, but it's been a heavy technical lift to make all of this work reliably, scalably, globally. And so it's only up until recently, like earlier this year, that the platform is really maybe ready for production use. And yes, that price advantage really resonates with people building new things when they're choosing their technology. You can build on Livepeer from the get-go. A lot of what we've seen from kind of the larger scaled, more mature video applications so far is that they want to see more features to maybe be at parity with a bunch of the other services out there. They're concerned about switching off of something that's kind of working for them already and ripping that out of their technology stack and embedding this new technology. And so the price value prop resonates, but maybe not quite as much as like I thought it would. But what's really been surprising is how much people kind of come to us to solve problems for them when it comes to decentralization and when it comes to the fact that this is not running on Amazon or Google infrastructure, but that it's running on this open access global decentralized network. And that kind of philosophical alignment or just idealistic perspective really resonates, and that's when people come and seek out Livepeer and need them to help solve their video problems for like the vision that they have, and that's a real differentiator for us relative to a lot of the existing platforms that are out there today.
So it's kind of more the reliability angle that is an inherent benefit of Web3 and the underlying blockchains that you're supporting there that's becoming more of a driver at this point than the cost, you feel?
Reliability is really important and something we've had to do a ton of work on and continue to do a ton of work on. I think that will be an ultimate benefit when you remove kind of a single point of failure with a single company that you're relying on. But I actually think it's almost idealism or a philosophical decision that people have been. A lot of these creator economy platforms that are being built by communities that themselves were disenchanted with the treatment of their community within big tech platforms. So for example, these DJ streaming sites, if you happen to like stream a song in the background of your set or whatever, where you haven't clearly demonstrated like the license to be able to do that, these platforms just stop your stream, kick you off, and your audience goes away. Right. And so they actually like can't build their communities and congregate and successfully on these big tech platforms, even if they're, complying with proper licensing and royalties and whatnot behind the scenes. There's just no way to do it. And so, for example, they have no choice but to peel off and to build on a independent infrastructure. And they can handle the license. And so a company like Play DJ will do that and will handle the licensing and royalty payments on the back end and enable their DJs to stream. Right. I mean, that's a very explicit example, but with gamers on Twitch, they will, accidentally get their stream killed if like they walk into an area where someone else's avatar is playing the wrong song in the background and that song appears on the stream, and Twitch's like detection will automatically detect it and kick them off, even though it's like not a fault of their own. And then if they do that 3 times, they're kicked off Twitch like permanently, and they live in fear of this ban. And so countless experiences like these inside of all these different niche communities that are seeking an alternative from kind of the challenges that the big tech platforms face when it comes to community moderation and whatnot.
And it's an interesting point as well there, because is there not though that risk as well that down the line, once we get to that point where you have these critical mass on these platforms, and like with the early days of YouTube, for instance, the content wasn't really closely controlled and so on, and over time they started to build up these armies of people in low cost places to spend their days watching videos, looking out for explicit content. And is there not the potential that down the line we'll be in a similar situation? It might be that you have a community governing this though, rather than a corporate entity behind it, but people could still have that same issue where ultimately maybe they're not able to get the same traction that will reach within the community to get them to respond to this thing that might have worked against them.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like Web3 doesn't inherently solve for the need for moderation, right? Like communities have to be responsible for their own moderation in order to craft and curate the thing that collectively that community wants to see exist. I would say that like niche communities are better suited to moderate the content within their community to their own liking than a single corporate entity is to make the decision about what a scalable moderation policy is across 1,000 different niche verticals. And so I think it's likely that you'll see a world where individual vertical specific sites can provide way better experience and features and monetization than any one single global generic platform can. Right. Secondly, from a technical perspective, we try and make tools available to assist with this. So one cool, interesting technical detail of Livepeer is the reason Livepeer can be so cost effective is we have this global network of GPU crypto miners who actually they're mining other cryptocurrencies using their GPUs, but the GPUs happen to have video decoding and encoding chips on them. They can't mine cryptocurrency; they just sit on those chips doing nothing. And so we go to this global pool of miners and say, oh, you can also make additional revenue for encoding video on Livepeer, right? And so this cool technical thing related to moderation is after video has been decoded on one of those GPUs, the GPUs are actually really well suited to do things like scene classification, which is apply machine learning algorithms to determine, is this likely to be adult content? Is this likely to be violent content? the one that you won't believe is actually the biggest source of abuse. Is this likely to be Premier League soccer? Because all these streaming sites face piracy of streaming Premier League soccer, and it spikes up their CDN bills to thousands of dollars in minutes if they don't detect it, right? And so, because of the kind of the open software, these open ML models, um, and this network of GPUs, you can actually give that capability for almost no additional cost to people building on Livepeer. Whereas you kind of go back to the traditional world, if you will, and it's like, oh, you pay one video provider for your transcoding, and then you have to, like, if you want moderation, you have to pay $9 an hour to another service to be able to do that content detection. And again, it only becomes tractable for premium sites with premium content. Whereas we can make those tools accessible for all, so that you can launch, a streaming platform focused on a specific vertical. You can have encoding, you can have high quality streaming, you can have content moderation assistance built in, and you focus on letting your community build the product and network that you want to see exist.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear how you've managed to tap the miners here in the equation as well, and find that. And it's kind of funny as well when you think about all of the the current kind of criticism around the cryptocurrency mining and so on, but all the video consumption that people do in their day-to-day lives, and that's going to be using a lot of GPUs, which they're not free to run, right? But presumably with this, given the just how much capacity there is now, running these networks, it must mean that you've got the potential footprint of GPUs you have access to is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's been a really convenient opportunity we discovered along the way, was how to tap into this existing pool of GPU miners. It's why I say the supply side capacity of the Livepeer network is the last thing that keeps me up at night. I have a lot of things that keep me up at night, a lot of challenges, but there's millions of these GPUs deployed all around the world, not just for mining, but for other tasks out there as well, rendering AI, training AI models, et cetera. And Livepeer can route extra work to them when they're idle. So that's been a kind of a nice opportunity to help bootstrap this network. And yeah, there's more than enough supply to encode all of the live streams going on and all the big social platforms at once, should they choose to hook up to Livepeer.
So what are some of the other things that have been keeping you up at night, given that this isn't, apart from all of the balls that you have in the air as a founder anyway, right? I know that it was announced recently that you're looking at Arbitrum for your layer 2 scaling on Ethereum. Presumably the fees associated with the Ethereum network and how they've gone up in the last 12 months must have been something that's probably fits into that category of being in your mind.
Absolutely, yeah. Scaling to make the network cost effective is one of the top things that we have to overcome. It's so interesting looking back at the early days of the network. So Livepeer launched in April of 2018. So this is almost 4 years ago now. It's 3.5 years ago. The gas price, and for the listeners, gas price is like how much you have to pay to use the Ethereum network, was 1 Gwei or 2 Gwei at the time. So doing a transaction, like sending some ether, was a few cents, right? And lately we've seen gas prices spike to 200, 300, 400 Gwei to do a transaction. So that same transaction could cost 400 times as much today as it used to incur back then. So the Livepeer protocol that incentivizes this huge network of GPU operators to join and to encode video, and they become owners in the network by earning Livepeer token each day as long as they submit a couple transactions. When gas prices are 1 Gwei or 20 Gwei or 75 Gwei, the network works and makes sense. But when they get to the prices where they are right now, you come into this huge challenge where those people who want to show up and do work on this network, it's not worth it, because just to do the transactions, to register their node, to submit the proof that they were online and did work, to earn their rewards become more expensive than the value that they're earning. And the huge barrier because of this is we can't make all these, really high quality contributors like owners in this project, right? They can't participate in the upside as the network gets used more and more. And that's a huge challenge. So we've done a lot of scaling work over the years and built something called probabilistic micropayments to help make this network cheap to use for the demand side, the broadcasters that are using it. I'm happy to talk about that. But the big thing that we need to do now is scale so that the supply side operators can submit their transactions, claim their payments, and the short term step that we're taking is a migration of the whole staking and node operation protocol onto a blockchain called Arbitrum One. It's a layer 2 rollup chain that anchors back to the Ethereum mainnet. It's been live for a few months. They have a great developer experience that's very consistent with the Ethereum development experience. And we're working on kind of migrating the staking and node operation protocols onto that, targeting a testnet in the next couple of weeks. And then, I won't put a timeline on it. We'll see how the testnet goes, but assuming we get high confidence that we're ready to go, can move on to Arbitrum One following that.
And given that that kind of space is evolving quite quickly, I mean, do you anticipate right now it's that you'll see how things pan out over the coming months, and then it might be reevaluated, or do you feel that you're in a position where it should serve your needs well, and you kind of can put that to one side for the time being?
So this space is in constant evolution, right? Every couple of months, if you pick your head up, there's something new, even on the roadmap of core projects like Ethereum in terms of how they're going to scale, right? And so with Arbitrum, for example, it's an order of magnitude cost reduction from Ethereum, but a lot of things are moving there and it's getting more and more expensive, right? At the same time, Arbitrum itself has a big upgrade coming out called Nitro, which will reduce even their own fees on an order of 10 to 100x from where they are today, or at least increase their throughput 10 to 100x, which means you'll see a fee reduction, though some of that block space might get filled up. And so definitely in the short term, this is major win and major relief for our node operators. They're even taking a subsequent step, which can give kind of another order of magnitude relief. And then where do you go from there? We've done this upgrade in a way that you could target multiple layer 2 chains and use the same mechanisms for migrations. It's obviously a big step for the community. It's a big pain in the butt to have everyone need to learn how to operate in a new chain and whatnot. So you don't want to be doing this frequently, but you do want to make sure that you're delivering the best set of economic incentives and the best experience for your community and node operators. And so I think this looks like a good step right now. We value like practicality, and we always want to be like making decisions based on things that work and deliver an impact and are not just some abstract theoretical concept that may arrive in the future. But if you look out to the future to things that we keep an eye on, you see, one inspiring concept called zero knowledge rollups, which can, deliver an even higher level of throughput than these optimistic rollups like Arbitrum One is built on. And then, of course, there's the ETH2 scaling roadmap as well, which continues to evolve based on learnings from these chains that we'll keep an eye on. But I think, for now, looking out at the next year or so, this should give our network and node operators a lot of relief, and that's what I care about.
And certainly the tweets I saw today was saying how 2021 has become the year of NFTs. Is 2022 going to be the year of layer 2s?
I think it's going to be the year of Web3 infrastructure. So you have projects like Livepeer, which is the video streaming layer of the Web3 infrastructure, but you also see all these other great projects that have been building for years that are now usable for other types of infrastructure resources. So whether that's Arweave or Filecoin for kind of file storage, or the Graph for indexing and data services, or even Helium for kind of bandwidth and connectivity, Akash for kind of virtual servers and application hosting. You're starting to see these pieces be put together that let developers actually build killer end-to-end experiences without reliance on centralized hosts and providers. And you're seeing these things be put together in cool ways. And I think in 2022 you'll actually see an explosion of usage of these platforms and really cool new things that maybe use NFTs and better kind of creator monetization mechanics to really disrupt some of the existing social and media platforms of today.
And you guys, you've been, was it the Graph? You work with the Graph. Are there any other sort of protocols that, or all these key kind of Web3 building blocks that you're actually working with or looking at collaborations with? Of course, ones that you can actually talk about.
Sure. A lot of times I don't want to be like, partnership hyping or anything, right? You see that a lot in the Web3 space where it's like Project X partners with Project Y, huge news, but like, what's it actually mean under the hood, right? I like to point at examples where developers combine these different systems to build cool things, right? So, one good example is there's a project called Glass .xyz that is building a great video-centric creator monetization platform. They let artists and musicians live stream and create and mint NFTs. And they combine these systems by using Livepeer to power the streaming and handle all the video stuff under the hood. But then when they want to actually like save a file, mint an NFT, they store it on Arweave, right? And so they've like combined these systems, and that can lead to some cool, the combination of these two things can lead to cool new use cases, right? We've done some partnership with Filecoin on this research project, more on the supply side, that lets Filecoin miners who actually have GPUs as part of their process encode video on Livepeer while doing Filecoin mining. And supposedly, I think this is still like research to be done, but the notion of like transcoded video being pulled from or stored on like the Filecoin node that's sitting right there, like next to the same physical machine or network, and you get kind of proximity benefits where you don't have to send this data all around the internet because it's good to process video near where it's located, right? And so, seeing examples like that as well. And then, of course, the Graph. We're a big user of the Graph, a developer with the Graph and the Livepeer subgraph. A lot of our protocol economics are kind of inspired off of same general ideas. I think they're such a key piece of data infrastructure for Web3 that enables really fast, good application experiences. And so we leverage them quite a bit.
Yeah, so hopefully, if next year we'll start to see some neat acronyms emerging as well. Like the ones that come to mind are like the mean stack, for instance, where you've got these different kind of components that developers use time and time again. But of course, it's going to be the Web3, so it's yeah.
I heard about the SHA stack, SHA.
Okay.
It was Skynet, Handshake, Akash. So I think the notion is you can store all your data for your application on Skynet. You can use Handshake for the like DNS and domain name service to access the application, and then you can serve it off of an Akash VPS or something. So I'm advocating for making that, instead of the SHA stack, the Lash stack, and putting Livepeer on the front of that if it's a video application, but a little bit of hackery to do to pull all those pieces together.
Yeah. That'd be cool to see, though. So one of the things that you've just mentioned as well is kind of how Livepeer can kind of converge with NFTs. I mean, of course, not that you're focusing on the creation of NFTs as such, but in terms of ways creators can kind of tie the two things together. And there was the as part of was it the NFT NYC? There was a Collide event where people participated in. There was a live stream event, but then there was also NFTs being minted off the back of it. How did that all kind of come together? Because it was something that was quite, well, I guess you were pioneering in effect of what you were doing there. So I'd love to dig into that a bit more.
Yeah, we collaborated with that project that I mentioned, Glass.xyz, to really experiment with how um, creators can kind of create unique content around their live experiences. Because we think, you know, we obviously focus on live streaming at Livepeer, and Livepeer's infrastructure was being used to power a live stream of this concert, basically, at this venue. But Glass created this experience that, using Livepeer's video tech that let people, record, or actually, like, as they're streaming this event live, they could basically like press start and press stop to like clip the live stream and to create an NFT out of that moment that would then get instantly minted, and available in an OpenSea collection that's representing the event, where people could like bid on them and own them live. Really cool technical proof of concept. Just like many things in this space, it's all about like trying things, inspiring ideas, like productizing in a way that works for the artists, the fans, the community. I think certainly running into high Ethereum gas prices for taking actions like that can be prohibitive. But when you think about those experiences being built on more scalable layer twos and whatnot, it can be pretty powerful. Like, because one thing I noticed as the performer was like on stage performing, there must have been like 40 or 50 people surrounding her, literally just holding their phones up, recording what's going on. And most of them, weren't minting NFTs on the spot or anything. They were just trying to like capture a moment of that experience. But I think there's probably something to be said about um, creators being able to curate and dictate what moments were created there, and to connect with their fans and deliver them like a unique experience or piece of content, based on that, whether they were there or not. And so I think that whole area is ripe for experimentation, but a way to engage with people live and to let them leave with some memory or something that they own as part of it, I think is a powerful primitive.
Absolutely. And so just one other detail, I guess, to touch on is in why is the kind of the live streaming aspect of it kind of so important? I know that you mentioned just now about the collaboration you've been looking at with Filecoin for storing some of this stuff, but yeah, how what's kind of why is there the focus there versus on just being able to say upload video, say for instance, or provide ways for people to create video and then put it into these different formats and then just store it?
Yeah, backing up to the grand vision, like, let's do it all, right? Like, Livepeer as a project should support video on demand, or VOD as it's called in the video world, just as well as live streaming. When we were getting started, again, just purely interested in live video as a medium, for creativity, for kind of engaging with people through communications and in the economy, teaching, et cetera. Just interested in live streaming use cases, but um, like, live streaming infrastructure is actually a much more challenging project to build out. It's a much more expensive thing to access than video on demand infrastructure, because again, you have to be able to capture a video, encode it, and deliver it around the planet in under a couple seconds without buffering very reliably, right? And the challenge for operating an infrastructure there is, again, if you're building an application that might have tens or hundreds or thousands of people streaming, you need enough capacity to handle your peak traffic, right? Like, if you're going to hit 1,000 people streaming, you need enough servers and global distribution to be able to handle that. But most of the time, you're kind of only doing this much volume, like 20% of it, 30% of it, 40% of it, and so it's all sitting there idle. And because it's so expensive, right? Like, you have to deploy a server just to encode one or two videos. So imagine you need 1,000 stream capacity. You need 500 servers deployed, even if you are only using 100 of them. or something, right? And obviously that's really expensive. It's really challenging to operate. Um, and they always have to be there. They have to be ready to go, because if you do hit that peak, they have to be there, and you can't exceed your peak. Otherwise, you can't. You don't have any equipment to support users, right? So, um, we saw a real opportunity to actually create something disruptive, useful, scalable, global that really delivered the impact on live versus for on demand. If you just needed to upload video and have it be processed sometime in the next couple of minutes before it's ready, that's a much more manageable systems problem. And there's no problem about moving that all around the world and just putting the video on a queue in the backup of the systems that you do have. It's much more affordable, right? And so let's tackle the hard problem where decentralization and scale really matters. Let's build up that infrastructure. It's something that people pay a lot for. So again, practical choice where it can fund the network of node operators, and then let's expand out and add more capabilities to this network as we go. We recently made a kind of a big move that adds a lot of capabilities to the Livepeer project. We had been working with this company that builds a product called Mist Server, and it's this really mature piece of video software. It's been in development for 12 years. It's used across all different use cases in media and video infrastructure. And our company, Livepeer Inc., actually we joined forces with them. We acquired their company, and their software is already integrated with Livepeer. A lot of users use Livepeer for this. But the result is now there's this piece of software called Mist in the Livepeer ecosystem, in an open source version that really gives developers so many video capabilities beyond just the transcoding that the Livepeer network does. So it lets people ingest videos in all different formats. It repackages them into all different formats. It has the video on demand features and storage integrations and a player and everything you need to build a great video application. And then if you need a scalable infrastructure to scale up your site and to do this processing and transcoding, their software just outsources that to the Livepeer network. And so again, a really big step in the direction towards delivering more of the video value chain to users in the Web3 and open software ecosystems.
And presumably that's going to be quite a key area for it not going to be, is already a key area of focus for you guys. How can you kind of simplify these almost creative on-ramps? So something that was reported recently was how Adobe had integrated support to mint NFTs from Photoshop. And so you can think about these video editors or people working with the tools that they use to, whether it's they want to add some bells and whistles on top of a live stream or do some value add things there. They can actually, it becomes like a default backend, a default piece of plumbing that people always use, and then you can just transition the normal kind of creative people streaming these things onto these sorts of platforms with the right kind of partnership there.
Yeah, it's we have to Web3ify all of this technology, right? What are the smallest differing things that are new that are enabled by Web3 that didn't exist in these technology stacks before? So an example is let's say you're building a live streaming app that looks like Twitch. Should that enable crypto-based tipping for creators, so that they could receive tips from their fans globally in cryptocurrency, as opposed to needing their fans to sign up with credit cards in a certain list of countries and be approved by the platform in order to deliver that value? Maybe not. I don't know. But that primitive of use Livepeer and you get crypto-based tipping enabled is maybe a primitive, right? What about the NFT generation? Instead of just saving the copy of your video stream after you're done, should you have the option to NFT mint it, right? And then it becomes this scarce single asset that actually can be owned or transferred, right? Maybe even more granular, that NFT clipping, right? What are these primitive token gating? Should you only allow people who hold an NFT from a certain collection to be able to view this stream? So it's a stream for your community or for the people who own a specific subset of an NFT collection or something. So these are all like interesting experimental ideas that kind of merge Web3 primitives with traditional infrastructure that we have a lot of exploration to do.
Yeah, definitely. And so, just hearing what you're saying there, the idea of being able to get an NFT if you watch the live stream of something, but if you watch it afterwards, you don't. All these kind of crazy angles there. So, yes, it's really cool to see how it's going to evolve. But as someone who is a technical founder, I'd love just to kind of get your perspectives on how you kind of manage the balance between. I'm assuming, right? So we haven't spoken before today, but that you like to get sucked into the tech side of things, and there's always a big rabbit hole to go down there. But there's times where you've just got to kind of draw the line and say, no, I'm going to step away and focus on some of these other areas. But how do you kind of find the balance there, because there's all these kind of other responsibilities that you have in terms of selling the bigger vision of the company and that kind of forward looking part of it, and tech is almost like the implementation part, and so I'd love to get your perspectives there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to get my team's perspective, and they can tell you how I'm dealing with the balance. But
Yeah.
This is such a new area being built on cutting edge innovative technology that's really exciting and interesting to me as a software engineer with a computer science background. And I don't think it's right to ignore that. I think it's right to lean into it and embrace it and recognize that your knowledge of how to innovate in this space is part of your advantage. So I hope I never remove myself entirely from it, or just consider tech to be the implementation of this vision, because it truly is. It's enabling of the vision. It's like being aware of what's new and what's possible as we achieve new layers of scale, as there's advances in cryptography, as we improve distributed systems engineering workflows. These sorts of things are really important and really critical to know about. But how do I find balance? How do I make sure that we're focusing on the other areas of the business as well? I try and add people to our team who are just really experienced, well-rounded, driven, and they know how to execute in these other verticals in ways that I don't have experience, such that I don't tell them exactly what needs to be done. I align with them on a vision and a strategy of where we're going, and I let them make the plan in terms of how they execute to move us towards that vision, and I empower them to kind of run with that plan, because I know it would be a disaster if I tried to get in there and tell them how to do their job or how to run that department. And so, yeah, trust the good, smart people that you add to the team, and empower them to do great work, and they'll probably surprise you and blow your expectations out of the water if you were just to have expectations around how you would go about doing it yourself.
Yeah, you definitely need those additional perspectives and approaches.
Yep.
So, Doug, if people want to reach out to you, what are kind of the best ways? Twitter, LinkedIn? What would you advise?
Yeah, check us out on Twitter at Livepeer.org. Our website is livepeer.org, and you can find access to our Discord chat where the whole team is hanging out, including myself. You can email me, Doug at livepeer.org, and I'm happy to connect with anyone interested in Web3 infrastructure, live video, creator economy, all the cool stuff that's going on in this space.
And what would you encourage people to do as well in terms of, say, go do this, but beyond look at the website, try doing this with Livepeer as well?
Yeah, there's a lightweight way to get involved, right? If you get some Livepeer token, you can stake it on the network. You can delegate it towards one of these node operators and follow along with the video they're encoding, how much money they're earning. They share that earning back to you as a delegator, and you kind of become part of the project and a bigger owner in the network. And even if that is feels a little intimidating or maybe not the first step, just join our Discord chat. It's a great welcoming community of people working towards this mission of building the world's open video infrastructure. Everyone's very supportive. You'll learn a lot, not just about Livepeer, but about what's going on in Web3 in general. And you might, find your home in our community through various different roles.
So it gets sucked into the Livepeer rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yep. 5 years and counting. The rabbit hole goes deep.
Yeah. Well, Doug, thank you so much for making the time. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you today.
Sure thing. Thanks, Connor. It was a lot of fun.